message to Lightworkers. This week's channeling answers 2 questions from a reader who asks. First question, there are people who are so engulfed in the 3D illusion that they cling to it with their very essence. What options do they get when it comes to reincarnating? Some will not want a 5-day experience. We are all multidimensional beings, but there are those who choose 3D on very deep levels. I know those in bodies can stay in 3D, but what about those returning? Second question, I live in a small town in California where UFO conversations are very common. It's a busy place with very real galactic experiences on a regular basis. I get the distinct feeling the starships are visible to those vibrating at a certain frequency. Is that one measure of how close our vibration is to approaching 5D, the collective? Greetings, dear ones. These are both fascinating questions, and we will speak of them each in turn. It is so that many millions, at least half the human race, are still entrenched in third-dimensional reality, to the point where they feel it is foolish to contemplate living in a higher reality before physical death occurs. Your consciousness, which has grasped that one no longer has to leave the earth in order to move into fifth-dimensional life, is well ahead of these ones who are further behind you on the path of growth. Their path is still sacred, and still a beautiful and thrilling journey, if a difficult and challenging one some days. For those suffering in places of war or experiencing other situations of conflict, fear, lack of food and water, and loss of family members or illness, it is exceedingly challenging. Yet we would say that they chose to come to Earth at this challenging, even at times frightening time in her history, for the very experiences they are having now. We wouldn't say that they are not on the ascension timeline, but that their ascension timeline stretches out into a different path and trajectory than yours. This does not mean that they are not ascending. It means that when they are ready, they will acknowledge both the possibility and the choice of ascension. They will choose to develop their light body, transforming their Merkaba vehicle into the level of light and higher awareness needed in order to move into the 5th dimension while still in the physical form. Most of these life forms do desire a 5th dimensional experience. You might say that they think of nothing else in their desire for safety, for normalcy, for creative expression, and for love, including self-love. The karmic cycle of death and rebirth into another 3rd dimensional existence is ending on Earth. Those you speak of will not be reborn here to continue their 3D experiences and path. They will be born onto a planet very similar to Earth. One might say, a 3rd dimensional version of Earth, or another 3rd dimensional planet, but they will not be born into a 5th dimensional Earth until they are fully capable of sustaining that vibration on all levels. Otherwise, their physical selves would not last more than an hour in 5D vibrational existence. Trust that those who choose to continue in a 3D experience do so for their soul's own progression and understanding. They will not always be in such a low vibrational field. There are many more choices now for those wishing to move on. And the 3rd dimensional existence that greets them will not be so harsh and violent as the one you are familiar with. There will still be 3D lessons and experiences, but not so overwhelmingly hopeless, and not so closed and narrow in thought and belief structure, that ascension seems an ephemeral pipe dream that few can attain. Regarding your question as to whether starships are visible to those vibrating at a certain frequency, and whether that is one measure of how 5D a person's vibration is, we would say that nearly all starships are visible to persons of any frequency, whether to be seen inwardly with the inner eye or outwardly with the physical eyes. The question being, will that person permit themselves to view the ship, or is that too frightening a venture for them? You are at a place where the ego mind is struggling with all its trained might to remain in control of your inner choices and ideas. We are glad to report that it is fast losing that tug of war to the heart mind. If your heart mind is open and clear in its intent, if you are very focused about wanting to see the ships and to connect with those in them who are watching over Earth and observing her ascension journey, then yes, it is most certainly a reality that you may experience. The reason you feel that those who are more 5D in vibration are more easily able to catch sight of the ships is that you feel that they have more in common with those in the ships. Yet we assure you that you travel to these ships nightly in your sleep state, where you work and visit with fellow shipmates and commanders and those in support of your Earth mission, particularly those in your soul family. We assure you that you have spent much time in the ships, both between Earth lives and etherically in this life. That time is spent working to fulfill that which you came to fulfill in terms of your mission, your contribution to galactic peace and cooperation, or to the cleaning and renewal of the planet's air, water, soil, and atmosphere, or the introduction of fifth-dimensional technologies to Earth's people, or the healing of her plants, people, and animals, and many other vital missions that Lightworkers joyfully took on before incarnating at this crucial moment. All Lightworkers have had contact with galactic friends and family and fellow co-workers or comrades on their path, on one level or another, physical and/or etheric. Your physical body, however, doesn't quite see it that way. It has been trained since birth, in this Earth life in particular, to fear certain situations as being too out of control or strange, too much an uncertain outcome for you to bear. And so, there have been those who cry out to be contacted by the galactic brothers and sisters they know are their own family. They have cried out to see the ships and to experience them from the inside in their awakened state. Yet their bodies register only terror at the slightest move in that direction. This is understandable, and no one judges you for it. Yet the more you can view yourselves as multidimensional, galactic citizens, dear ones, the more you release the fear you were taught as children, and the old Earth human survival training, then the more you allow that which is increasingly becoming a normal, though not yet universal, human experience. You knew as children that you were not alone. You knew there were angels and fairy folk and forest folk and many others labeled as magical, who were as real as anyone you knew. You knew that dolphins could speak aloud, and that all animals spoke to you telepathically, as the earth and the wind and trees could also do. You were born with memories of having been aboard spacecraft and wandering the galaxy. You knew the stars were not so far away, not inaccessible, and that other planets held life. But then you went through the conditioning process, some of it seen, much of it unseen, that informed you that you would be called a fool for believing any such nonsense, and that perhaps these things did exist, but that they existed down a deep rabbit hole that would take you from all you loved, all that was safe and familiar, and cast you into a frightening brew of alienation and loss of friends and family. And you could not bear that. We speak not only of the fear engendered by films that Hollywood has produced since the Roswell crash. There were not many that told you ETs were dangerous before that time. We speak as well of how teachers are taught to teach, of how writers and journalists are taught to write, and how the producers of news shows and feature films are taught to produce the exact same fiction in different forms. One as news, the other as entertainment. And yet the lies remain. You feel the dissolution of these lies now, dear one, or you would not ask these questions. We assure you that you are capable, all of you, of seeing the ships. Say to your ego mind, "You are not my higher aspect. My higher self is piloting the ship now. Release this fear, I am one of them, you know that." And then look to the skies and say hello to your family. For we are here, dear ones, you know that. And as always, galactic citizens, we and all your families welcome you home. Namaste, we are with you always. The collective, holding the vision. The latest guidance from the Ascended Masters, Galactics, Earth Elementals, Fairy Elders, Angels and Archangels known as the Collective. Greetings, way showers. We speak to you now through the channels of frequencies surrounding and permeating Earth's atmosphere, body, and spirit. We speak via the waves of energies aligned not only with the higher realms, but with Earth's higher aspect, that fifth-dimensional being she is quickly becoming, and all of you, as beings living upon her, likewise increasingly resonate with that higher light that is becoming your greatest food source, your greatest inspiration, and your greatest collective vision. You may not be consciously aware of those you meet with in the etheric as your physical body sleeps, but you have been holding a very high vision with them, and with many millions of other light beings supportive of your soul family's missions. You have together been collectively envisioning and adding divine light to living images, potential realities, of the peaceful, abundant, and whole, healed earth you have long desired to live upon. These live, energetically created visions are not mere images that you delight in. They are the beginning and middle stages of any new co-creation in this universe. The result is that Earth has become an increasingly difficult place for those who revile that vision and those higher energies, and who have resisted their pull into higher frequencies of thought, being, and cellular makeup that most of Earth's people are now acclimating to. This explains the occasional political, social, economic, or military threats and posturing you see being expressed by those who have been placed in certain visible roles of what they call authority. They were placed in those roles not to protect certain cultural or national groups, but to keep humanity's recognition and awareness of its co-creational ability under wraps and under ridicule. You have been told you are weak, highly faulted, and utterly limited. Yet that has been a lie and a prevarication from the start. If you are thinking that a people operating with a highly reduced number of DNA strands, who are under the constant influence of a dumbing down matrix based in fear and disempowerment, has had little choice but to believe what they are told for survival's sake, you would be correct. The very great exception to that scenario is the era in which you are increasingly entering now, is a powerful symbol and energetic expression of the ending of that slave state based in fear energies. You are in fact coming to a time when you will smile at the word fear and realize its potency is gone. It no longer has the hold over you it had for millennia. Related to your collective etheric visions are the actual cellular shifts and evolvement occurring in your bodies and brains. You cannot separate them. A Lightworker has written us regarding a recent online article. It's http or www.greenmedinfo.com, blog, NOE star, sex required body cells, transfer. Genetic info, directly sperm cells, amazing. It notes scientific findings regarding how everyday diet, environment, and lifestyle decisions affect not only mind-body processes, but actually send genetic information from cells that are not involved in reproduction to those that are. If your somatic cells, those cells which are not reproductive cells, which are continually affected by your nutritional, environmental, lifestyle, and even mind-body processes, can transfer genetic information through exosomes to the DNA within your germline cells, those cells which pass on genetic material to offspring, then your moment-to-moment decisions, behaviors, experiences, toxin and toxicant exposures could theoretically affect the biological destinies of your offspring and their offspring, stretching on into the distant future. Noting this article, that Lightworker asks, would this not imply that as we are all one, the changes each one of us makes in our diet and attitudes, etc., influence the all? Wouldn't that make public policy regarding food production, exercise, diet, vaccinations, the whole range of health and food-related areas overseen by government departments even more vital? Doesn't fifth-dimensional life hold tremendous implications in that sense? And indeed it does, though you will note that humanity is not waiting for public policy as it is directed by governments to show any particular forward movement in this and other areas before it creates them on its own. There are two streams running powerful currents at present. One requires accountability on the part of government in areas such as elections, holistic foods and medicine, clean water, education, public safety, peace among nations, among many other areas. The other current is running independent of government and is not waiting for special permission to engage in use of free energy devices, enlightened forms of education, holistic medicine, organic food growing, healing the earth's air, soil, and waters, and many other areas. This dear one is correct in seeing that the shifts to a more holistic diet, belief systems that engage the soul and higher self, increases in self-love and self-esteem, and forward movement in inner evolvement all affect the collective in powerful ways. Each person is similar to one cell in a complete organism that in its self-healing and increasing vibration draws up with it all the other cells in that organism. This is why mass social movements, religions, and political ideologies have been used as they have been for thousands of years to get certain cells of the organism on board with certain limiting beliefs until the whole organism becomes a mere shadow of its true, original self. Understand that any time you or anyone engages in a life or health-affirming activity, belief, or feeling, You are extending that reality through the energy gridwork of larger potential reality that is all life on Earth. Your mainstream science is only just now catching up with what you have known intuitively for millennia, that all forms of consciousness and all beings are related, and all are capable of great outer change that is first instituted from within in the heart-mind. We have also been asked by several lightworkers why there seems to be a higher suicide rate at present, and what happens to those souls who take their own lives. Regarding where these spirits travel after leaving their bodies, this is a highly individual path, and we would not give a simple answer regarding that spiritual journey, nor for any other, regardless of how physical death occurs. We would say, please be aware that there are, as some call it, the slow suicide of eating unhealthy foods or taking recreational drug or drink, of rarely engaging in exercise, of closing the heart emotionally, so that after a time, it begins to shut itself down physically, and many other forms of seeing quiet self-destruction. Fewer persons experience worry for the spiritual well-being of those who choose to leave their bodies in this way, to the same degree that they worry over those who leave suddenly by their own hand. This is understandable, yet as everyone's path is sacred and holds its own degree of mystery, you cannot know what went on for those who leave suddenly, on a soul level, before they incarnated, and so to assume to know, via worry, what would follow. And so peacefully release these ones who choose to leave now, regardless of their circumstance. Send them light for their journey and bless and thank them for all they have done, for all those gifts and contributions they have made, though you may not necessarily see or appreciate what these were. Even those who come to agitate or oppress have their role to play in the great unfolding that is occurring now. We would say, regarding the higher number of those leaving now, that people are not only leaving the physical in higher numbers by their own hand, but in numerous ways. The energies on Earth are now such that it is not for everyone to evolve with them at present, and many realize on a higher level that they are now able to do more out of the physical than in it. Know that in many ways they are still with you, working to heal the Earth and aid humanity in numerous beautiful ways. Often these dear ones have felt that their path and soul group's mission, and their own individual soul growth, was better served by them leaving their current incarnation. There is never a reason for bitterness at what your minds perceive as a loss, any more than there is a reason for resentment against those who have appeared to oppress and restrict you for so long. Though we, as you, do not find their methods anything to celebrate, yet your increasingly conscious freeing of yourselves from their oppression is a very great thing to celebrate indeed. And so, we watch over you, not as the shepherd tending the flock, but as the cloud that drifts by, conscious of the beauty of the life within and around it, gathering its rain or giving way to more sun per the expectations of the crowd below. For indeed you have that co-creative ability to change weather, to shift the course of rivers, to purify oceans and soil, to enlighten minds by filling hearts with the special light you yourselves came here to know and to affirm in all others. To realize that you are divine love itself. We see your great vision, and we add our love and co-creative intentions to it, for this new earth is of your making, dear ones. Rejoice in that. Namaste, co-creators, we are with you every moment.